All right. So, like I said when I was talking about the Invisible Man news, we got actually, excuse me, I have a comic that I had just finished, and it was kind of like funny timing that I finished a James Tynion comic just as news of him doing a new comic involving my favorite Universal monster, and that book is The Deviant. It is an Image comic from James Tynion, and it was sent to me by my bro Chris. Thank you once again, bro. Yeah. Now, I didn't know what to expect with this book. I thought it was like a cool, as you can see, all I knew was a horror Christmas story, and I didn't know anything else about it. I just was like, oh, this looks cool. This looks cool, and I was kind of like, it's also funny that I read this right after I finished Toxic Avenger, which it was actually a fast read. It was only 4 issues long. Um, it's such a this is so dark and fucked up that it was such a neck snap. Like it was such, I almost got whiplash from going from Toxic Avenger to the Deviant. It was oof, damn, that was a lot. Anyway, so let's get into it. So the story is kind of told through two timelines. One set in 1973, three or two. Let me look that up. The year is kind of important. Um, uh, in 1973, excuse me. So yeah, between 2023 and 1973, it's two different timelines, and one talks about a Santa Claus killer who murdered several boys who were dressed as elves at a local mall, and those killings seem to be happening again. But the thing is, the supposed killer, Randall Orson, is in prison, and he claims he was only locked up because he was gay and had a relationship with some of these boys. And we're also following the story of Michael, a comic book artist and writer who is sitting down and talking to Randall. He is also gay and does like all these interviews with Randall in order to do like a serial killer biopic comic. The comic also has this underlying tone that the Santa Claus killer is back, and Randall still claims that he was innocent no matter what. But while the killing is continuing, Michael's now being put as the prime suspect as the killer. The comic, like I said, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was going to be like Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's what I was kind of thinking. But no, this is more Long Legs than anything else. This actually feels like a Christmas version of Long Legs. It's a very brutal comic. It's also just kind of depressed. It's also really depressing. And also, what's weird is that I thought this was like a one and done comic. No, it's the book 2 is coming out, and it'll have issues 5 through 9. Which, by the way, let me just say, that's so arbitrary, and it kind of bothers me that and this is just kind of a tick I have, is that I don't like uneven numbers, and so when your comic ends on an uneven number, it bothers me. Why didn't you just go to even? But who knows? That's the thing with Image comics, is that they can just end whenever the writer feels like it. It's kind of like when Invincible was ended at issue 191. I was like, you couldn't go for like 9 more issues and go to 200. You were right there. You were 9 issues away from it. Whatever. Or was that Invincible, or was that Walking Dead that Robert Kirkman ended on an arbitrary number, and it just felt like you just couldn't get to the milestone and end there? Whatever. And an even milestone, no less. But yeah. The comic, I'm not going to show you any of the art because this is brutal and also has some explicit stuff in here that I was not prepared for. The comic, like I said, has this dark, depressing feel, and also has a lot of undertones of, is Randall innocent? Is it really him? But the thing with me is that I kind of already figured out who the killer was, and I kind of don't want to read the next half because, I kind of know where the story's going, and this is too much of a slow burn. I feel like you should, this should have been collected in all 9 issues to tell the whole story. This was way too slow for me in the first 4 issues. And don't get me wrong, you can do a slow burn and make it interesting. Here it was like we ended right as the comic feels like it was starting. And I know, yes, the trade is coming. I think it said, I looked it up and it said next month. But I was like, I I feel like there's something cool here. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that happens in here, and excuse me, James Tynion, almost said Mark, James Tynion. I don't know how I got Mark from James, but whatever. I need coffee. This this comic has some really brutal imagery and dark stuff, and James Tynion's really good at telling horror comics. Like, as much as I don't like Tynion's work on like Batman, as well as like his Ninja Turtle crossover, and some of his mainstream stuff are pretty hit and miss for the most part. They are very hit and miss. But on the other end of that, like his independent horror stuff, and also some of his stuff from Black Label, like the Hill House books and like Nice House on the Lake, yeah, those are all solid bangers. Those are straight up horror books, and like I've said before, I think he did a phenomenal job on Dracula. But here, I feel like the comic just kind of ends right when we're picking up, and is like dun dun dun. Wait for book 2. I kind of don't, because I kind of figured out where this comic is going. So it doesn't help that I've already figured out the mystery, and I know, like, oh, but the ending shows differently. Yeah, that's what we call a red herring. So, yeah, I've kind of figured how this story's going to play out, so I kind of don't need to read part 2. But I do recommend it if you are, like, into, like, dark dramas as well as dark horror. So I would recommend it, but, like, I think it would be better if you read both books. I feel like you should, if you are curious about reading The Deviant, I would at least recommend checking out books, like either as like when book 2 comes out in June, or wait for like a complete edition, like that has all 9 issues. Maybe that'll come out and maybe that'll change your mind. But yeah, I wouldn't say like just get this right now, because I feel like you'll feel just a wee bit unsatisfied of just like how the book ends. Anyway, so there you go. That is my review of The Deviant. Chris, I want to thank you once again for sending me this comic. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.